focused on strategy and go-to market. He works closely with NEMT owners to solve problems and improve operations.
Thanks so much. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, great. So thanks everyone for coming. I'm joined by 4 of the best NEMT providers or people in the industry that I know. And I'm really excited to sort of, ask them some questions about how they grew, how they were successful. I know for some of you who were here at the last NEMTAC, one stat that stuck with me was that 70% of new providers fail. And so, we're going to listen to these guys about sort of how they were able to succeed, how they were able to overcome all the challenges in NEMT, and to grow and ultimately exit some of their services very successfully. So with that, let's quickly go through, just a little sentence or two about yourself, and then we'll jump right into it.
Hi, thanks, James. Hello, I'm Paul Minch, owner and CEO of Gentle Turns Transportation. We operate in Phoenix, Arizona, and really excited to be here.
Good morning, my name is Jeanine Johnson. I am from Sarasota, Florida, and I am a proud client of Duet of 3 years.
Good morning. Is mine up? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm Rachel Scheller from Plymouth, Wisconsin, and I operated in NEMT for 17 years, which I sold in March, and have now branched off into consulting.
Morning, I'm RJ Morrison. I got out of the ambulance industry 2 years ago as being an owner-operator. I'm out of Los Angeles, so please don't hold it against me, for those of you in the audience.
All right, so first question I want to ask everyone is, what did you do right when you were starting out that sort of helped you go from 0 to 1? So let's start with Paul and just sort of go down.
Yeah, research the market, I would say, is very, very important. Know your market, know your opportunity, and network.
I've heard that one before, like, stop in with business cards and, make friends with the transport coordinators.
Absolutely.
Well, I started my NEMT in 2019 in September, so we all remember 2020. So within 6 months, my wheels did not turn. So I did have to pivot. And so what we did was I just made sure that we had all the PPE that we could, and we did COVID positive transports. So it is important to be able to pivot as the needs and changes and trends come about. As we all know, there's going to be a lot of Medicare and Medicaid changes, so you need to pay attention, stay informed, and put yourself in a position so you can continue your business.
I would say it was important to start as an owner-operator. It keeps your costs down, but it helps you to understand every aspect of the business. So as you're growing, you kind of have a nice foundation and what your drivers are going to be up against and some of the situations they might encounter. And also taking time when you're hiring, so you get the right people. We're a service-based industry, so it's really important you're getting people that have that, same mindset, that want to do justice and represent your company and, help your community. So I would say learning every facet is very important in the beginning.
Pretty much echo everything that everybody else has said. More on the ambulance side, we would just take out our competition. In other words, we just buy them. It makes it a lot easier. You don't have to fight with them.
Thanks, RJ.
But a general thing is knowing your market, opportunities, the standard SWOT analysis that you do for any business. But the easiest way, honestly, in the ambulance industry is just to buy each other.
So this is a very exceptional panel, and every NEMT is different in how they approach things. I want to ask everyone sort of what's your superpower that led to you being successful, maybe different than what other NEMT services you've seen?
Well, for us, at Gentle Turns, we call ourselves a white glove service. So we market it that way. Now, frankly, we're not doing anything special. We show up, we're on time, we have nice vehicles, and our drivers are kind and friendly. Honestly, that's just what people are looking for. So you don't have to be exceptional, just show up. Now you have to show up.
Yeah.
You have to be on time. Those things are really important but if you, in my opinion, if you do that, you will separate yourself from your competition, because this is it's a fast-paced environment. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in scheduling. We're all dealing with traffic. A lot of people are dealing with weather. You're dealing with physicians. Their appointment times don't go the way you want them to. There's a lot of things that get in the way of it, but you have to figure out a way through it. and communicate. If there's delays, if you're gonna be late, must communicate to people. That's just, people are no different than you or I. If somebody's gonna be late, I just want them to tell me they're gonna be late so I can deal with that myself.
And Paul, you leverage that with like, you ask people for the Google review after they've had a good trip, right? If you guys look up Gentle Turns, you'll see a lot of 5-star reviews that I think is, it takes advantage of the high level of service.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, James. I think those sorts of things, people are looking for reviews. Again, just like you or I, if I'm going to a hotel or I'm going someplace, I want to see their reviews. So it's very important to ask people to give you a review. You want to be confident it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
But, if you're providing a good service, people are happy about that, and they're happy to give you a review too.
I would have to say that I just consider myself an ambassador to my hometown because I am a native of Sarasota. And so with that being said, I always look for a way to say yes instead of a way to say no. So with that being said, we do mental health transports, which in the state of Florida is Baker Act and Marchman Act. I also transport dementia, cognitively impaired individuals. And something is very important for you all to know about that is that there are a lot of people out here, you are transporting people with dementia, whether they present that way or not. And especially if you're taking them to the airport, there's a program called the Sunflower Program. And when you see a sunflower on someone, that means that they have a disability and it's not something that you can see. So you should make sure that you stop and ask them, do you need help? So you definitely need to pay attention to that. As piggybacking on what Paul said, I am a client of Duet. So when we are running late, my staff can either text or call them, and they're calling my clients to let them know, hey, your driver is about 5 minutes out or 7 minutes out. So that is very important, and my clients appreciate that. But in addition to what I'm saying, when I say I find a way to say yes, I transport cognitively impaired people to their day program. I did that for a year. I lost money doing it, but it's what the community needed. In addition, I also do the mental health transport, and also we do senior relocations. Sometimes that's by ground, but again, if somebody has dementia, you don't want to take a trip ground. They change. It's called sundown. So as that sun goes down, you're gonna start seeing more agitation and aggression and combativeness. So you really do need to know the different types of client. There is no one size fits all, just like there is no, all of us NEMTs are all not the same. So I definitely have a very diverse group of people that I transport. I know them all, and I always try to find a way to say yes. And so therefore, the hospitals, the facilities, I do a lot of hospice transports. So, that's not something that people in the beginning should start out doing. But as you mature, you want to add into a different demographic.
And if anyone's talked to Jeanine in the exhibition hall, I think you might admit that her real superpower may be just sort of the ability to instantly sort of, connect with people. And I think that really pays off, like, going to the facility, make friends, get trips, that sort of thing.
I'll talk to anybody. I got referrals on the bus. They kept moving my seat because I kept talking.
My superpower, I think, is problem solving and staying calm under pressure. In this industry, despite our best efforts, things happen, mistakes happen, and it'll throw your whole schedule off. So it's important not to spiral, panic. I mean, we still have to get our clients where they're going, and if you've scheduled properly and you're staffed properly and you've got the right, vehicle mix, you should be able to pivot pretty quickly, readjust your schedule, get another driver, and not miss that appointment, because as you all know, it sometimes might take months to get back in for that client, which is a failure. And so it's important that you keep your wits about you, you don't panic, say something you might regret or get frustrated and take that out, because as they've said, referrals are your best asset. So it's important that caseworkers, the director of nursing, facilities, everybody sees how you handle these problems and they feel safe ensuring that their clients or patients are with you. So it's really important to represent yourself and handle things logically and sensibly.
Yeah. And compassionately. Like, I was on a webinar with Rachel. She's just like so kind and thoughtful and really puts her community first. And I think it like comes off like, you know, when you're talking to you, but also like, you know, when people are riding with your service.
Yeah, it's very important. I started the business out of a personal needs. My grandfather needed it, so I've kind of modeled my whole business as if it's a family member and how I would want to be treated. And I want, you know, the client's family to trust us and feel safe. And we do a lot of day program transport for disabled, cognitively disabled people. So it, again, goes back to hiring the right people, making sure you're entrusting in, you know, people's lives, and it's a big responsibility.
Got it. Anything you want to add, RJ?
I don't have a superpower. I hire people that do have superpowers.
That's a superpower.
The biggest thing I've always said with all the companies that I've owned is you have external customer service, which we're all our clients and stuff like that. You don't, most owners forget about internal customer service, your staff. So if they're happy, when they go to see your clients, that nurse's station that you're, you know, 45 minutes late to, you tell them ahead of time and they've been real nice, you got them lunch that day, they'll smooth it over for you more than I was just told to get here. I'm here now, stop complaining. So that's the only thing I would say.
Great point. So let's talk about sort of that after, you know, you're off the ground. I think most people at NEMTAC here sort of have a service running. How do you think about growing, you know, from maybe 1, 2, 3 vehicles up a little bit? Do you think about adding vehicles? Do you think about going up service levels, like adding stretcher? Do you think about looking for better contracts, maybe going from brokers to facilities or getting deeper into private pay? And I want to ask Paul and Rachel this one. I have another question for Jeanine afterward.
You want to go first? Go ahead.
You can go first.
Very polite panel.
Well, I'm a little more on the front end of it, so maybe that makes sense. But yes, so we are currently operating 6 vehicles. A year and a half ago, we started with 1. And to your point, James, for us, growing was mostly about getting out in marketing. The volume starts coming, but I have been really careful about making sure that don't buy a vehicle until you know you can fill it, or at least mostly fill it. Because the last thing you want is to be buying a vehicle and paying insurance and have it sitting on the side of the road. So obviously you have to buy or hire drivers also. But you know, that's worked out pretty well. And so the other thing is, as you expand and grow, those referrals are going to keep coming. And the people that you're providing services for, seniors like to talk. Seniors like to brag about a service that they know they like. They want to share that. They want to share that with they sit down and have lunch with even if they're in a group home or in a community, they love to talk about some kind of secret that they found. That works really, really well. So valuing that, paying attention to that, saying thank you. Tony talked a lot about that yesterday. You can't say thank you enough. And you know, being grateful and just treating people very well. And so paying attention to that growth opportunity. There's a lot of different places you can take the business to go, but really kind of focusing on one challenge I would say is to spread yourself too thin. So you might want to pick 2 or 3 different opportunities and say, I'm really going to focus on hospital discharges or adult day programs, or because you can spread yourself so thin that you're really not going deep enough to get the growth opportunity.
Yeah, and you really went deep. You delivered really good service, and you marketed it very well with like the website SEO, the Google ads, the word of mouth, all that stuff. And I think you can see how it paid off with 1 to 6 vehicles.
Right, it's been very helpful. Can't say enough positive about Google ads and SEO, doing that the right way, choosing keywords. I didn't really think people were out on the internet looking for these services. Well, they absolutely are. And when they are doing it, they're pretty desperate. If you think about, okay, they're actually resorting to a Google search, that means they have nowhere to turn. They're just starting at square one. So those keywords they're using, you can take advantage of that, and it will pop you to the top, and it works really well.
Yeah. All right, Rachel?
So I operated 3 to 4 vehicles for several years, and then it's like I knew, the margins are so thin, you really don't start getting a higher profit margin until you have like 10 vehicles on the road. So I approached it very strategically, but it was organically. As the community needed more rides, I would buy another vehicle. I would, hire 1 to 2 staff. And just slowly, we had about a 3-year where we went from 4 vehicles to 15, and it was hard. It was very hard, it was very stressful, but the community, you know, you keep getting the referrals, and it's like you don't want to turn it down, because there's clients today, it's been 17 years of day programming, and they go Monday through Friday. It's recurring rides, you're not constantly searching for those rides, and you can multi-load. So it was growth that we needed to do to stay. That was sort of our niche, and where our money came in more so than the medical. That was more fill-in for us. There's a lot more variables with medical, whether it's, you know, their leg is extended, they need to be in a stretcher, they need oxygen. There's just so many different things, and the timing can get thrown off, so it makes it really hard then to stay on track and keep your goal, you know, your daily tasks in check. So I would say not growing too quickly is important, and just having a solid footing so you understand what you're getting into and can still provide high level service.
And Rachel, you've always like really prioritized hiring good drivers, right? Really
Yes.
friendly, thoughtful
Yes,
people.
we have, especially when we first started like doing the day program, so 7 to 9 a.m. is really busy, and 2 to 4, it's like a school bus a little bit. So we had really great luck with retired policemen, firemen, county jobs where they aren't doing this for the money, they're truly doing it to serve their community, to stay busy. Some of them, you know, have been with their spouse. They're home, and it's like, oh, I don't know, I need to do something to get out of this house. So, and people will be like, I'm gonna work for you a year or two until my spouse retires, and 7, 8 years later, they love the job so much. And I think if you're fair and you treat everybody with respect and dignity, you really can't go wrong. You wanna be a great employer, so that, again, those staff members go out and represent you and do justice to your community.
Thanks. So I know we've talked about not spreading ourselves too thin, but you know, all NEMT providers are different, and Jeanine has sort of made a business of like, you know, spreading herself into a number of different areas, like synergistically often selling to the same facilities. But Jeanine, I'd love to hear a little bit about sort of, you know, your experience in home care and how, and other services, and how that's sort of, you know, synergized, I hope, with NEMT.
Yes, well, I am a nurse, and so I was the admissions nurse for the largest rehab in my city. So I was in all the hospitals in my county and the county north of mine. And so what I saw is that, you know, I got bonus on the people that I could bring to my facility, and I could never get them out because there wasn't enough transport. So the transport started first, and then when, you know, because I am an owner operator, like she said, I've done everything in all my companies I've done myself. And I still ride along now to make sure that my people are compliant. But nonetheless, when you are a driver and you are going into the home, someone is discharging from a facility and or a hospital, they've not been home in a long time. So when you, and we're door through door, so when you are taking them into that home, the refrigerator is what? A science project.
Yeah.
You know, there's all kinds of mold and you know, probably antibiotics growing in there. So with that being said, a lot of times these people are seniors, they have no family, and even sometimes when they do and they're elderly, the apple ain't far from the tree. You know, one person has cognitive deficit, the other one's not too far behind. They don't see well, the bread is molded. So when we saw that, we're like, okay, we can't just leave them like that, they need help. So hey, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you know, we're gonna send someone here, we're gonna clean out your refrigerator, we're gonna stop, we're gonna pick up your medication, because rehospitalizations is a bad word to the hospitals, right? So they don't want these people coming back for the same diagnosis. For something different, you can come back, but not for the same within 30 days. So they're going back to the hospital if they're eating moldy food, or if they don't have any food and they don't have their medication. So all of these things need to be addressed. With that being said, we started Cerebral Healthcare, which is, I'm licensed as a nurse registry in the state of Florida, and I have a staff of almost 40, and that's what we do, anywhere from 4 hours to 24 hours. We do end-of-life care, we monitor, supervise for people with cognitive deficits. And with that being said, when we were doing that in some of the assisted living facilities, they wanted to hire my staff as their facility staff. So then I started Sailor Girl Medical Staffing. So we do non-emergency transport, we do in-home private care, and I also provide workforce labor in the means of Sailor Medical Staffing. So they're all synergistic and they all feed each other. And so, you know, that's something that your drivers, when they're going into that home, it wouldn't be a bad idea, you know, and another referral source for you to partner with a home care agency. So that's definitely a firm and solid relationship that'll keep feeding you business.
Jeanine, so I'm not a nurse. If I were running an NEMT service, would you recommend I sort of learn how to do home care and train my drivers? Or would it make more sense for me to look up, you know, find a good local home care and partner with them to sort of refer business to each other?
You absolutely need to partner
Okay.
with a home care service. You know, you definitely don't want to be liable. You need to be trained on how to properly transfer someone, which obviously I don't know that when you're doing your transports in a facility like a nursing home or a hospital, I make them transfer those patients into my wheelchair and or stretcher. We will help, but they definitely have to have their hands, and that liability is on them. And then once I cross that threshold, then it's on us. But you know, so if you're not thoroughly trained at how to transfer someone, you don't want to take that on and have your drivers, because you all know with oxygen, y'all can't touch it. So you know, the nurse has to titrate the oxygen and transfer the oxygen. All you can do is attach it to the wheelchair or stretcher and push them out.
Got it. So speaking of growth, you know, sometimes I look at the reimbursements for like ambulance trips, and I'm like, man, am I in the right industry? And so I'm curious, RJ, if you could talk to us a little bit about, you know, does it ever make sense for an NEMT company to go up market and start doing BLS, like basic life support, you know, buy an ambulance, do those more advanced trips? And sort of like, how would I know if that's something I can do as my NEMT service, or whether it's sort of not worth the hassle?
My joking answer would be no, don't do it. So it all depends on where you are in the market in the United States. So I live in California, Los Angeles. We have 37 licensed ambulance providers in the county of Los Angeles. NEMT providers, we have upwards of 110, 120. So it wouldn't make sense to do it in that market just for the fact of saturation. But if you're in somewhere in Arizona, we'll say, pick on Paul here, where they don't have many providers, if there's an opportunity, and looking at opportunity is not just, hey, so-and-so at a nursing home says, hey, my ambulance provider, pardon my French, sucks, so you think you can do it? Sure, and then what happens? They find somebody else anyways because you took too long to get licensed. So a real true market analysis of it, reimbursement. I don't know what you guys pay for your litivans or wheelchairs now. I mean, imagine 50 to 70,000 range. And how quickly do you get them, just out of curiosity? If you ordered one, might buy one today, how long would it take to get it?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? So an ambulance right now costs me about $120,000. That's not stock, that's just the vehicle chassis on the side. And it'll take about 18 months to get it.
Wow.
During COVID, it was basically 2.5, almost 3 years. So, you know, do you have the capital to do it? A lot of oversight agencies, I do a lot of regulatory compliance stuff for different areas. You have to have a significant amount of liquid available. Typically, most states that I've seen, you have at least 6 months of liquid available to sustain your operation without taking any fees. And that includes whatever your staffing is. So if you're staffing 1, 2, 3, or 10 ambulances, and don't forget, you have to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So that costs a fortune. So, remember the thing about buying people? That would be the way to go. But I mean, ambulance industry reimbursements are good sometimes. You know, we all deal with Medicare, Medicaid, and the lack of payment that you get. Hourly wages always have a huge effect. I don't know if anybody else experiences. I'm gonna pick on California because I'm from Boston originally, so obviously I'm a transplant. But we have a great thing called daily overtime. So that means that if somebody works more than 8 hours a day, they get paid overtime. Not even if they hit 40 hours for the week. But if they also work more than 12 hours in that day, they get paid double time. And if they don't get their lunch break, they get an extra hour of pay. Now I'll say, look at me, ladies and gentlemen, do I look like I missed a lunch break? So this stuff becomes very, very expensive. So
Country, California.
I would say it's the reimbursement of $108, that's what we get in California for Medicaid, or Medi-Cal, whatever you want to call it. For an ambulance transport, it's $108 and $3.25 a mile. An average trip will cost you upwards of $90 to over $100, depending on how long the trip takes you.
So I'm hearing we need a lot of capital and we need to be in a market, maybe not California.
100% no, don't bother, don't bother.
where there's sort of no one else doing BLS in your town or region.
I mean, NEMT upscale, I mean, we always separate, and I always find this funny, that NEMT looks at themselves as separate than BLS ambulance. The reality of it is it's non-emergency medical transport. Inter-facility transport is NEMT. Supposedly it's because we're clinicians, right? Same thing, I have oxygen, they have oxygen, they send it. The only difference is my people can turn it off. That's the only difference in reality.
Yeah.
So, talk to regulators.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
thanks,
Linda.
thanks, RJ. I'd just like to emphasize the point that Jeanine made, which is super, super important. The difference between transfer and transport. Very, very important to understand that. And she described it very well. What I'll say is, when you're a driver and you're out in the field and you're helpful, because we hire helpful people, right? The temptation is going to be for them to do that. And just as Jeanine said, it's okay to assist, but you have to make it very clear that you're not leading that transfer, because frankly, you're not insured for it. So if something happens, you're going to be liable for it, and you can lose the business over something like that. So super, super important.
Thanks,
To
Paul.
piggyback with RJ with the ambulance, I do believe too that there has to be a certificate of need in some places.
Oh yeah, a lot of places require
So you have to
need necessity
Yeah.
support, because your competitors ironically can actually go to your hearing board and say, we already have enough ambulance companies, don't let them get licensed. Which typically is the large conglomerates that are doing the don't do it because we want to, monopolize the territory.
Wow. Okay, so changing topics a little bit. I mean, I know many of you love NEMT, want to do it forever, but sometimes people, want to exit at a certain point or, retire. And Rachel's a great example of someone who, built up her business from nothing to about 17 vehicles, and ultimately sold it. And so Rachel, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about sort of how you went into the process of selling your service and sort of what tips and tricks you have for people who might want to sell their service.
So I was approached by a group of investors that wanted to purchase it. So it was 4 people from 4 different states, and they were trying to create a comprehensive care plan where it's physical therapy, home health, transportation, and the apartment complex. But I have always operated, I live in the community that I service, and having 4 people from just different states wanting to do it, I knew it would take the quality down. It would turn it more into just about the dollars, which wasn't right, and I wasn't exactly prepared. I was very involved in the day-to-day, which you'll get less of a sale price when that's the case, because they want systems and everything automated to run without you, because then an investor can purchase it and it can just keep running and they're making revenue and profit from day one. So when I went through that, I talked to somebody who did a market analysis and helped me figure out what my business was worth, which made me realize the investment group was offering 60% of what it probably was worth, and I didn't know any better. So at the time I thought, well, this is a great deal, but it wasn't. So then I had my broker kind of go through, tell me what I should get, and then he helped me find the person who did purchase it, which is somebody with small children from Iowa who moved to Wisconsin. And so I would say your starting point is try to have management in place, your standard operating procedures, everything, the groundwork just laid so that your operations can keep going. If you're in the hospital, you die, something happens, you want the company to keep going so your surviving family doesn't get nothing and it just dissolves. So once that happened, my father-in-law and my parents are both sick, so that was also a huge factor. After 17 years, we just wanted more time with our family, and now we had sort of entertained selling, and it's like, well, the time freedom, and I could help a lot more people in a different way in the industry. It's like I was content where I was and didn't really want to grow anymore, and the need is there in my community to grow, and it's just not something I personally wanted to take on. So it just seemed after 17 years it was the right time to kind of change directions and start focusing on other things and helping in other ways in the industry after so many years.
Yeah, and Rachel's a fantastic coach now for NEMT services. So if you want to talk to her about growing or talk to her about selling, come chat with us afterward. One more big topic I want to cover here, sort of margin optimization. Would love to ask Paul a little bit about sort of how you track your spending and revenue, and you're the expert of sort of making that line go up. So how do you do the analytics there?
I'm not sure I deserve that, but thank you. So I'm an accountant. Sorry, I have an accounting degree. I've been in healthcare for over 30 years, and most of my experience has been on the insurance side. I've done a lot of accounting, a lot of just what you're describing. So I've had a lot of really good background with that. Margins are tight. That's been mentioned by this group here. So margins are tight with this. So it's really important to understand your revenue, the different categories of the revenue, whether it's one way, round trip. I also learned too that a round trip, obviously, I mean, this might sound obvious, but you might count it as one, but it's actually two trips. It's an A leg and a B leg. So you really have to understand what your trips are and to be able to price that. And then of course the expense. Now, that's variable. There's some expense that you're gonna have that's variable, like your fuel, like your insurance, like your labor costs. But then you've got other expenses that are gonna be there, whether you're actually driving or not, like marketing and things like that. So it's important to understand that, to break it all down. And what really works well is to get a price per ride, so that you can understand if your cost is more than your revenue. It's going back to what RJ was saying, you're not gonna make that up with volume. So you have to make sure that you get your costs down below the revenue. Make sure you have a margin, try and maximize the margin as much as possible, but start with getting a handle on what your expense is and be able to break that down to the expense per ride. So then you can feel good about increasing your volume.
Paul, what are your thoughts about sort of having a different price sheet and negotiating with every different sort of facility or contract, or do you prefer to just these are my prices, take it or leave it?
Yeah, it's hard to do that. It's easy if you can, but it's pretty difficult to do that. I'll give you an example. We have a base rate that includes up to 10 miles, okay? Well, for the most part, that makes sense. But sometimes, like if I go to a rehab center and they have a hospital that's 2 miles away, they don't want to pay for that 10 miles. So what I found is you have to adjust that price structure then, because for them, that base rate is not a good deal for them. So you have to be a little bit flexible about how you develop your pricing. And if not, you might lose out on some opportunity.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like in our software, I'll sometimes look in a customer's account and they've got 30 different price sheets, because they're negotiated with all these different providers, whether it's like tiered pricing, metered pricing, whatever. Cool. So Rachel, I wanted to ask you about sort of how you keep costs down. I mean, I know you've talked about sort of keeping driver costs down and hiring seniors and all this stuff. So I wonder if you could tell us a little more.
I think, again, being so involved in the day-to-day, I kind of knew where we could cut different costs at and try to keep things low. I am a fan of simple, so everything I did, I tried to keep it as simple as possible. Minimize your mistakes, make sure your schedules are correct and you're allowing enough time for everybody. And I think it goes back to who you hire, because if you hire the right people, they're not out there dragging their feet, taking longer, or, the people we had, if there's downtime, it's like, hey, do you want me to come wash some vans? Do we need to restock the vehicles? Are there errands we can do? It's like it's a collaborative effort. So I feel like people enjoy coming to work and they want you to succeed. So it all just sort of goes hand in hand, and because the profit margins are so thin, you realize really quickly that you need to do things as inexpensive as you can, but there are times where it's justified, you know, to spend a little bit extra money. You're gonna save in the long run, by not burning any bridges, you know, it's not
I have a
really-
question.
Yeah.
If I could, yeah, please, sorry, James. So sometimes I'll provide a ride knowing I'm really not gonna make any money on that ride, but it's a potential new client. Because that client, again, might feed other opportunities. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. And it goes to referrals. There's some clients that may be very, very difficult, and we've had some very highly autistic people, and they're tough. They can be very tough. If it's a bad day, I mean, we've had punching the window, trying to rip the mirrors off, and it can be a little bit scary, and it just, but that social worker might have 40 people on their caseload, so it's really important, and that gentleman with the issues deserves as much dignity and care as the next person, so.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I've done a lot of rides for free as well. I mean, if somebody really needs it and they just can't get there, I'm not in this just to make money, I'm in here to improve people's lives, so. I think you just sort of, as you learn your industry and you have compassion, and I think, yeah, doing discounted rides is absolutely the bigger picture people need to keep their eye on.
Got it. So I've got one or two more questions myself, but I want to open it up if people have questions for anyone on our panel here.
James,
feel
you ask
free
a
to-
question on the panel, because I don't know, I've never done pricing on NEMT. When you guys do your facility contracts, on my side, name on the side, I would do, ever heard the term usual and customary, right?
Right.
So, which is typically your high, your max, and then some places have a minimum amount as well. When you write your contracts, do you do, this is my posted rate, however, if you do this within 30 days, this will be your discounted rate?
Yes.
You do?
Yep.
And how many of them actually do the 30 days?
It's not always the same. Sometimes, some months I'll get it in 30 days and some months I don't.
My question then is, do you then go to what your agreement says, to your higher rate, or do you leave it at the discount?
Higher rate.
And they actually pay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll shut up now.
Or just-
And, you know, and
I'm jealous is what I'm.
You're going to see that
You're in California.
more with any of you that are, a lot of the facilities now are trying to push it out 90 days.
Yeah.
So, you're gonna start seeing that more, and there's one contract that I just didn't even respond. You know, I was like, I cannot do 90 days, because sometimes, you know, it's 45, so it's net 60, but if you pay me in 45, you know, then you get a discount, but, now they're asking for net 90, and I'm, you know, and they're asking for net 90, and they want you to do the lowest possible rate. And so, you know, either you're a finance company, or you're NEMT. And, you know, other people get upset with me, but I'm like, I'm just not, whether I can or not, I'm just not going to, because that's not good business. And I don't have a business degree, I'm not an accountant, but I know that.
That's good. So RJ, my answer is a little different.
Okay.
Just because of the people that I'm serving. I don't have a lot of facility contracts. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want them, but just the way my business has developed, it's 100% private pay. So I'm typically collecting cash on the day that I provide the service. Now, this is small, and we're growing, and as we grow, that'll change.
Where's your
most
office
likely.
location, so we can go by it tonight?
So, I mean, but going back to what Rachel just said too, a lot of the clients that we're serving are people who have money available. That's great, but I don't want to just serve those people. I want to serve the people who don't have money too. So the more I can get, you know, reliable, quick payment from the people that do have the money, then that gives me the ability to help the people who maybe don't.
Yeah, I consider myself a Robin Hood, you know, I make profit from the people that I can afford to make profit from, and I turn around and do charitable work, you know, as well. So, when the hospital calls me and says that, to discharge somebody underneath a bridge or back to the woods is a discharge plan if that's where they came from. So they can go back there. That is considered a safe discharge. So when the hospital calls me and this person is homeless and this is where they were, or they camp outside of the local Salvation Army, that is a discharge plan, and I pick them up, and we listen to easy listening or country, that's all you're allowed to play on my vehicle.
Yeah.
And we drop you off there. So that's very important to know. Don't be afraid of, transporting homeless people. And when you're doing that for the hospital, they're gonna give you more business. They're gonna give you the good stuff too.
Yeah. Okay, we had a question over there.
So I know we've talked a lot about referrals and networking and whatnot, but for a new business just getting going, what kind of pointers and tips do you guys have for securing just those first rides even, so so that we can ask for the referrals, we can start building that base, really just to get that clientele built up and really get that name out there and whatnot.
So I'll start just because I'm probably the newest of the group here, but so this is what I did. I found in Phoenix there's a group of folks who their job is to work with seniors who are looking for a placement in an assisted living home, right? They're called placement agents. Maybe that's a common term, I don't know. They have an association. I joined the association. Now all of a sudden I have access to 150 placement agents. They're all referral sources. From there, I'm giving people rides to their assisted living home. Now I have a future opportunity, because these folks go to doctor's appointments, right? So you do a good job on that ride. Oh, you have doctor's appointments? Sure, love to help you. At the same time, you're also meeting the assisted living homeowner who might have 4 or 5 homes. So that takes a little bit of time, but it's an excellent way to build a business right from the start.
What I would add to that is that you gotta have a website. In 2025, at the very bare minimum, what makes you valid is you have to have a website. If you're going to these organizations and they're like, oh, well, you know what, that was great, Paul, let me go look Paul up, and there's no website there, he's not really credible. Is this a hobby? Is this just something you do on the side? Is it a real business? You have to invest in a website. So you need to have good graphics. Your content needs to be good, it needs to be engaging. You have to have pictures of your vehicles and or your drivers. Just because you build it, don't think that they will come. You still have to ask for business. So you definitely have to market, join your local chamber of commerce. Mine happens to be #1 in the country, but, and that's a fact. But, they really promote me. And so when they're doing events, Sailor Girl, can you be a sponsor? Well, it didn't cost me any money. What they wanted is for the event, the parking lot was a lot further from the venue. So they just wanted me to shuttle people from the parking lot, and they see that Sailor Girl going back and forth, back and forth. And so I get emails, I get text messages, calls. Hey, we saw you. I also, for any Floridian, any MTs in here, advertise on television during hurricane season. So it's costing $2,000. I have a 5-second ad that runs at the news, because in Florida we're watching television, and from June to November we're watching the news, and so people are calling me. I noticed specifically that my call volume is up in Duet. They can tell you, because Duet does all of my dispatching. I just watch my money deposit from Stripe. They do all of my accounting, they do all of my invoicing, they have all of my contracts, they know what I'm charging. So I can concentrate on my other businesses because, I am in partnership with Duet, and as I grow, they grow with me. So I'm very excited.
That's very kind, Jeanine.
Yeah, very
So
excited.
we had another question.
Good morning. I'm Emily Alba from Agape Love Transport. I'm based in Austin, Texas. Hey, all. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. But if I may, most of us we really have problems with insurances and liabilities. Can we talk about more of your experience on liabilities, and of course how to get the right insurance for NEMT, because that's the very challenging hardship of this kind of business.
What I would say with the point that Rachel made initially is you really have to know your insurance, because of course I had an insurance agent that I met here And I was like, hey, I went into COVID and, you know, I still had to pay that $1,000 a month and my van didn't move. At the time, I only had one van. And so he's like, oh, well, why didn't they do X, Y, Z for you and defer it and, you know, take your payment down? I'm like, I didn't know that I could do that. So you really have to educate yourself on the different insurance, and you definitely have to, don't be afraid to shop your rates around. And I probably would be more inclined to go with someone who specialized in NEMT insurance, because they're probably going to get you the best rate possible. That's my
And
experience.
I've met a couple of them at this conference,
Right.
so, you know, ask around.
I've been fortunate with that as well. I've been with the same agent since I started, Roberts and Ryan, and he's here today. So if anybody needs some advice or quotes,
Stand up.
Is he-
Dave Bergman, yeah.
So we know what. Next guy.
But I've had him for 17 years, and for me, the peace of mind, we've had rollovers, we've had, you know, vehicles totaled, and Dave and Julie handled everything from start to finish for us. So to me, it's worth the peace of mind. He specializes in NEMT, he's very, very familiar, and he's been doing it a really long time. So it would be worth a conversation to kind of see that, as you all know, rates are going up, the industry is changing. This is one of the biggest obstacles. And I think shopping around and understanding your coverage and what your liability is, and not going, it's human nature, like you said, to want to help, but it opens you up for exposure that could ruin your company.
I'm sorry. It's not actually about the insurance. What I'm asking is about how do you deal with an insurance, like the liabilities behind the insurance, like the SAM, you know, all these things that you have to take care of so that you maintain a good insurance with your broker and your agent. So, and how do you deal with employees on how to take care of, you know, not to get your insurance partner to, you know, to claim, and how do those kind of, you know, that.
Some of it is, it is what it is. I had a claim, I think my first year, I had a Ford Econoline. The thing is 13 feet tall, and my driver wasn't paying attention. The clearance wasn't posted. And so the learning experience from that when I'm training is, if you don't think, if the clearance is not posted, don't drive under it. Go off to the side, pull in a parking spot, don't go under it. So I went from $985 to $1,400. And so then I tried to remove that driver from the policy, they would not, and I had to pay that for a whole year. So, you know, what could I do? There was nothing. I shop around because that's on my record. So everybody else was gonna charge me that same thing too. So that's why we have insurance. You have to pay it. And, you know, that's just the best answer. And that's the only incident. I've had no other loss runs since then, thank God.
What I would say too, and Jeanine mentioned this, but training. Don't shortcut the training. Training is absolutely critical. Refresh your training regularly, and every vehicle needs to have a camera.
Yes.
You've gotta have a camera in your vehicle. That's for your protection mostly.
Correct.
Because you wanna make sure you don't want clients saying, oh, they dumped me out of the wheelchair. And the camera should be audio and visual.
Correct. I use a company out of California called Azuga, and they have an AI camera, and it's a two-way camera, and it does everything for me, and it also tells me when they're speeding. So I know it emails me, I get an email, I know when they're speeding, I know when they had a hard break, I know when they've had a sharp turn. It gives me all of that information. And
It shows you when they pick up their phone.
it shows, and it also beeps at them when they pick up their phone.
Yeah.
Because when I drive myself, sometimes when I'm sitting at a light, I'll do that and it'll start beeping at me. So, you know, those are just some of the things but what I will say, some of the things that this young man, when you all speak to him, he can tell you is your training is essential. You know, when there's an accident, those are some of the questions the insurance companies are gonna go. Where's your training program? Show me a copy of it. You know, did you go out and do you do ride-alongs? Show me the equipment that's in your vehicles. Those are some of the questions that they're gonna be asking. And they're gonna wanna see, because they're gonna wanna know, did you adequately train this person or were you negligent? So I hope that helps you. Training is essential in all the information that you can provide.
I'll piggyback a little bit more onto that. So the liability training is very important. When I was so I was running about 65 ambulances a day from Southern California all the way to Sacramento. My cost annually was about $1.2 million for insurance. That was just auto alone. We had a state minimum of $1,000 deductible, so you have typically a lot of cash on hand. So the brokers I would go to say, well, they want training. I said, okay, well, what training do you provide? Because I don't have to pay another service for more training just to get a discount with your insurance. So the brokers that I ended up using, we ended up going to a captive, which we're kind of self-funding in a sense, but we have training material that's given to all members. It's theirs, it's done on the computer, done online, so they maintain records of your staff, they maintain the compliance of it, so it helps your risk mod, because that's the biggest thing, to reduce your mod to prevent, to have a lower or better safety score, if you will. Drive cam things are great. I had Samsara, which is it's GPS, does all the fun stuff that everything else does, the AI computer. But honestly, it's the first 5 years of doing business with it, you're gonna be stuck paying the higher rates because you have to get some experience under your belt for them to start being willing to go at a lower rate or modify your plan going further and realizing you don't have such a liability or something based on market, volume, types of transport you're doing as well.
Did you say 5 years?
5 years typically. New York and California are about that.
Yeah, I think we can take one more question here.
All right, I'm going to make it good. Hi, panel. Thank you for doing this for us. Really appreciate it. My name is Brenda Case Cook, and I have a brand new company called Door to Doctor. And when I say I have a company, I have the LLC. So I'm just starting out. But a couple of questions for you. So I heard you talking about hurricane season. Is there a certain time of year that we get heavier traffic and we should ramp up during that time? Another question is, what's my way into the hospitals if I'm starting out with just one vehicle, a personal car? I don't even have a truck yet. And also training programs. Is there one that you can send your drivers to instead of having to develop everything yourself? And also, because you all are so full of wisdom, is there anyone who's interested in taking on a mentee?
But I mean, that was definitely more than a question.
So I will say, we are serving ice cream sundaes at the Duet booth right after this, and the whole panel will be here. So if you've got 4 questions of your own, feel free to stop by. Maybe we could give some quick answers.
Here?
She's
Houston, okay, yeah. So hurricanes are obviously relevant, right? So yeah, I think it's, first of all, congratulations.
Yeah.
Good job, yeah. If you want to get into the hospitals, you're gonna have to have a vehicle that you can use wheelchairs. Yeah, a private vehicle won't, they're almost all, we've made it a policy now never to show up at a hospital without a wheelchair. I don't care what they tell you, they need a wheelchair. And that's the other thing I'll mention, not just with hospitals, but when people are setting up rides, you might have to figure that they're not going to give you all the information, or information might not be accurate. They say 300 pounds, probably 350. So you just have to be really careful about that. And capability for dementia, these folks, I mean, it's challenging for them. I really don't like to transport someone with dementia unless they have a caregiver or a family member with them. They don't know me. They don't know where I'm taking them. It's confusing. So there's just a lot of things like that that are really important.
And so when you partner with a home care company, so I have medical staffing, so they can pay for one of my caregivers to accompany them. My hospital will do ambulatory. They will, especially for people who are coming into the ER and don't necessarily need an NEMT. So those case managers in the ER would be the best fit for you, because sometimes they do partner with local taxi services because they want those people out of the ER and they want to turn those beds over.
Maybe really quick.
Is anyone doing student transportation?
Sorry?
Student transportation.
Oh, I'm actually just starting to do that, yeah. And I think you said that you do some of that, right? Or was it Rachel that
No,
did that?
disabled but
It
adults.
was, yeah, the ones that I did took disabled students
Yeah.
and adults, to a day program.
I see.
I don't do, schools because that insurance.
It's a whole
It's a
different-
whole, that insurance.
Yeah.
It's an issue of insurance, so no, I do not. But there is a need for it.
There is.
I'm sorry, last one.
Really quick.
Yeah, because I believe there's a market for NEMT for mental health.
Yes.
And most of the clients who would call would ask if, does your van come like the ones in the police, that they have like a screen or,
I do in Florida, it's called Baker Act, Marchman Act. I believe in Georgia is 1013. Other country, whatever your state calls it something different. So yes, we do that. And at this time in my market, I do not have dividers. However, there was just an episode in Palm Beach on the other coast of Florida. The police picked up a man who was in crisis. They dropped him off at a non-Baker Act receiving hospital, and he killed the nurse and wounded the CNA. And this was in the last 9 months. So I'm reevaluating that because I was trying to get a contract with the county to do those. But if going forward, my people need to be able to protect themselves. So I have to reevaluate that. But they deserve the same dignity as everybody else. And that's also another reason why we need the cameras as well.
they don't need a divider? Yeah.
You do need a divider. I'm saying I didn't have one.
All right. Well, could we all give a hand for the panel here? Thank you so much.